Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video guide on something I like to call the Illusionist, which is a life staff build with the Rapier for kind of like utility, repose, that sort of thing. And this thing is a very nifty build. It allows you to get a lot of healing, a decent amount of damage, and of course be able to be a little bit tanky as well so that you can keep yourself alive with those fortify buffs, which is really important. It's more of a Paladin style build in terms of how it plays out. So I'm going to dive into it, show you guys what I use, the abilities I use, the perks, the gems, the armor, etc. So you guys can get a hand on with this as well. For those of you that are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas Eve. I hope you all have a brilliant holiday season. And we're going to jump into the build here. So the first thing, of course, is going to be my build. I'm using medium armor, so I'm using the heavy helmet and chest plate, medium gloves, medium boots, and light legs. Currently don't have the right perks on those because it was from a previous build. But when I fully get into this, I will show you guys what to use. And then that just puts me at 22.9, which is just into that medium build there, which is really good. So you can kind of get the extra 10% damage and the 15% bonus healing, which is really nice. You could also do this in a light build, but I do feel that the medium just gives you that extra bit of armor rating where you are able to survive a little bit longer. Now, in terms of weapons, obviously we're using the Rapier and we're using the life staff. This isn't a combo for everybody. It does require a certain amount of skill, patience in terms of, you know, when you're going to use your riposte, for example, but it is a really fun combo once you get using it, which is kind of why I like it. And you can craft this really cool Voidbringer's Rapier if you have weaponsmithing level 200, which is amazing. And yeah, basically these two weapons work super well. It's mainly primarily focused on healing, but then you're also healing yourself, giving yourself fortify, and then of course you're putting things with the Rapier. It's going to be mainly using your abilities to dive through people. As you can see there, I've got flurry on because leeching flurry is a benefit of this weapon. So flurry is just to kind of give me some health back if I need to, and then of course I use my riposte again as kind of a defensive thing. So it just allows me to move around, keep myself alive, get involved with objectives and pushing objectives and being involved in the fights, whilst also providing a decent amount of damage. And there's two kind of attribute builds to this where you can do either a little bit more damage or you can do a little bit more healing, so I'll go over that point when we get to it as well. Now, like I said, there I am using leeching flurry, so in terms of perks, that is going to be a really important one. I would also really say that you absolutely need blessed on your life staff. Anyone not running that is missing out big time, so make sure you're getting that on if you are healing in any capacity. These pieces do not have weapon ability perks on, but they do have Resilient, Invigorated, which are both perfect for PvP. You've then got the gloves here, which has got Revitalizing Beacon and Freedom on, which is both really good. The legs right now are not ideal, but the boots do have Fortifying Sacred Ground, and again, that is going to be pivotal to this build, so make sure that you are using Fortifying Sacred Ground. I recommend that for all healers in every PvP environment. Pretty much everybody uses Sacred Ground, so having Fortifying Sacred Ground is by far one of the best perks that you can actually get, so please try and get your hands on that if you haven't done so already. You will see those numbers go right the way up and you'll see a huge benefit to your team by doing so. But that's kind of the setup that you want to get here. In terms of jewelry, I like to use this one here, which is focus, obviously on the necklace, and that gives me straight protection and more importantly divine, which gives me extra health from all incoming healing effects, so other healers can do more health to me, and of course things like health potions. Then you've also got on the ring here, you'll see I've got Sacred, which is outgoing healing, which is really important. And I've also got Refreshing, which is a mixture of Dex and Con for the build that I'm running right now. And then I have got finally here another Dex earring, and this one has got Focused for mana regen, which is really good, and Purifying Toast, which is when you drink a regeneration potion, you lose 1 debuff. So that paired with a healer who's got something like the Party Heal, where it's got a cleanse on, can be really good. So moving into the build itself then, in terms of what we actually rock, we'll look at the attributes first here. So the attributes are going to be 162 Dex, 160 Focus, and 110 Constitution. Now this gets boosted to 150 with food, which is really important. So I've got the 40 Con food on me right now. If you don't have that, or you're going to use some other food, then you always want to try and get your Constitution to that 150 mark. 10% less critical damage also gives you around 11k health pool, which is really good and puts you up there so you can very rarely be one-shotted, which is very important in PvP situations. 160 focus rather than 150. That is because at 160 you do get a big buff to your healing compared to the 150 mark, so it is always worth putting those extra 10 points in if you're not going into full focus like myself here. Always try to get to either 160 or you can get less dexterity and go all the way up to 210, as that is your next big marker. And at 210, it will also give you the extra plus 20% duration on casted buffs. So you'd need an extra 50 in here, which would mean you're only at 112 dexterity, which is a lot less damage. But we'll move on to that in a second and talk about the damage. But it would give you a ton more healing. So it's up to you whether you want to be more of a healer with a little bit of an escape and a slight bit of damage, or you want to be kind of like a mixture where I'm kind of like the illusionist, the rogue. I've got the rapier that does damage. It allows me to escape, riposte, do some damage with light or heavy attacks, particularly at the moment. The heavy attacks are really, really nice. Have a decent amount of health and be able to heal myself and others for a good amount as well. So it's up to you. You can swap it out, but that's the build I'm rocking with. So then to finish it off here, you can see I've got a few wasted points in strength from my old build, which I just need to get a couple of pieces swapped across from. But again, that's the Warhammer build, which is the War Paladin. If you guys haven't seen it, it is on the channel for you to check out. So I would recommend that if you want to go with like a Great Axe or a Warhammer. It's a really good build as well. But this one obviously is focused on dexterity. You've got critical chance. Then you've got thrust damage, and then finally up here, you've got dodges cost 10 less stamina, which is really, really nice. And again, this gives you a good amount of damage with the rapier. You can see there, I'm on 789, and then almost 700 on the life staff. So both are going to do a good amount of damage. You're going to get a lot of healing done. You're going to be able to do a decent amount. When you are using your flurry or whatever on your enemies to regain health, it's going to be more beneficial because you're going to do more damage, which in turn converts more of that to health for you. You're starting off with a bigger health pool, obviously with the stat boost. Just even them out, so if you've got less points or you've got less food that is constitution boost, but you've got dexterity boosted food, go up to 150 here and have this at around the 122 mark, so you can then get that up with stat boosting food as well. Moving into the weapon mastery then, we'll look first at the rapier here. So the rapier, you guys can see, mastery level 20, and I'm using the abilities Flurry, Riposte, and Flesh. Fletch one is the one where I'm able to dash through enemies and cause damage as I do it. The Riposte is, of course, where you counter an attack and do damage and eventually stun them with the upgrades. And the Flurry is a lot of rapid attacks. I think it's 5 quick succession thrust attacks. They each deal a certain amount of weapon damage. And again, this can also trigger a bleed if you get a critical, etc. And they can be cancelled by dodging, so you are able to still move around very, very nicely with this. Now, the main thing you will notice about the Rapier is the lack of passives. You actually only have 5 on the Blood tree and 5 on the Grace tree, whereas we're used to seeing around 10 on these for the passive trees. So it is much, much more focused on the ability side of things, but the abilities on this refresh very, very quickly, even more so with the Riposte and some other things on this tree, and they are very, very good, so it's certainly worth it. In terms of what I do take from the passives, I take 3 from the Blood side, which are the Refreshing Strikes, which reduces all rapier cooldowns by 1% on any hit. I take in Guard, which is deal 10% more damage when target has greater than 50% health, and Unearing, which is deal 5% more damage to targets with the Rapier Bleed. One thing you will importantly note about that is that on my weapon, I actually have an ability called Keen, which is at plus 11% critical chance, and then Keenly Jagged, which is every crit causes a bleed that does 7% weapon damage every second for 10 seconds. So again, really, really good. And that does have a 10-second cooldown, but it's almost like an extra ability there, so it's super important, and that's why that fits in. If you don't have that, then you could maybe go for something like Light's Edge. So it does extra damage on both of the middle swipes in the light attack chain. Also really, really good, but it's entirely up to you. And then, of course, I take Flurry. I upgrade this for the first time for 25% more block damage. A second time, for each hit of Flurry, reduces its cooldown by 7%. And then the third one, which does each hit of Flurry, extends the Rapier Bleed by 1 second. Future stacking applications of this extended bleed will also be extended to its longer duration, which is really, really good. Just means that bleed lasts ages on the Rapier. And finally, this fourth upgrade here, which is Finalize, and this is the last hit of Flurry, will cause the enemy to stagger, which again is really important, particularly in war environments. It allows you to get away, it allows you to stun people, and it allows you to do a lot of damage whilst also then being able to get away from the scene, which is really, really important with this build. It's all about diving in and out, why I have called it the Illusionist. Now, the next one here, you'll see I've taken Riposte. Obviously, I've upgraded that first time here, which is if the Riposte is triggered successfully, all of your attacks become an uninterruptible for 3 seconds, which is really, really nice. Then I pair this with Priority, which is reduce the cooldown of other Rapier abilities by 20% when landing a Riposte stun. And lastly here, the third ability upgrade, which is increase the stun from the Riposte to 2.5 seconds. Really, really cool, and it's really important for this build. You can riposte players that dive on you when you're healing. You can go into a fight and then riposte players to stun them, get back out again, add into that Illusionist effect. Or you can use it as an engage. You can go in, attack somebody, wait till they attack you, riposte them, stun them, flurry them, stagger them again, and and then you can always get in or out or do whatever you want to do there, and it's really, really good. Then the third ability here is obviously the Fletch. You can see that this one is upgraded twice. So the first upgrade does killing with this ability. It reduces its cooldown by 80%, which is amazing. And then backside, which is the second upgrade, which is after performing Fletch, your next critical strike within 5 seconds will deal 15% more damage. So again, really important in terms of combos, especially when you're engaging, or if you're flying away from somebody, someone tries to catch up to you with the Great Axe, you can then use this. Obviously, you're going to have a better crit chance, do more damage to them, cause bleeding, stagger them, repulse them, stun them, etc. It's going to be very, very good. Now, in terms of the passives on the grey side of the tree, we use the controlled breathing, which is gain 3 stamina on any hit. Really, really good for dodging around and can be very, very useful in all situations, PvP, PvE, whatever. We then use red curtains, which is critical strikes reduce all cooldowns by 5%, which is really, really good, again, with that keen one, which is plus 11% critical chance. And then we also take swiftness here, which is gain 3% haste for 4 seconds on a rapier hit, and this can be stacked up to 5 times, and this increases your movement speed. So 5 times 3%, that is 15% you can get, which is really, really nice. And then finally, we take the ultimate on this side, which is momentum, and this one is deal 30% increased damage on your next light or heavy attack after performing an ability, and this ends on a hit or after 3 seconds. So again, you can do a lot of damage with the rapier with this build, and particularly with the amount of decks you've got. Next, you guys here will see pretty much a standard healing build. I've got Sacred Ground, I've got Orb of Protection, and I have Beacon. This is just for group healing, and of course the Sacred Ground and Orb of Protection are for myself to give myself the Fortify buffs as well as my team. So with the Sacred Ground first, then I take both of the upgrades so that I get regenerate stamina and mana faster 50%, really important. And then I also take Blessed, which is while allies are in Sacred Ground, they are healed for 50% more from all other healing. So that's really, really good. You also then take Absorb, which is light and heavy attacks no longer consume mana, and then upgrade this further so that light attacks now heal for 16% of the weapon damage when passing through an ally. This is really good because you can do damage to enemies and heal at the same time, which is perfect for this build. I then have Revitalize here on the healing side, which is when you hit a light attack, you reduce life staff ability cooldowns by 5%, which is really important. And finally, Intensify, which is when you hit with a heavy attack, you gain a stacking 10% bonus to healing effectiveness for 10 seconds, and that can be 3 times, which means a 30% bonus. Pairing this with the passive on Protector, which is the first one here, Bend Light, after a dodge, heals a 20% more effective for 5 seconds. You can have up to 50% better healing, which is where a lot of you might say, well, I'd rather go light for the 30% bonus. You get the damage bonus with medium, and you can put this up a lot and do some really, really good heals. I then take here, which is Protector's Touch, which is life staffs, light and heavy attacks grant a 15% fortify for 3 seconds when hitting an enemy. So every time you hit an enemy, regardless of abilities, you get a fortify buff, which is amazing. And then finally take Protector's Strength there. If you have a buff, you heal for 10% more. You're always going to have fortify on. Like with Sacred Ground there, I mentioned before, I had this Fortifying Sacred Ground weapon perk or ability perk, so I get that. I then take Orb of Protection with the first upgrade, which is if it hits an ally, they gain recovery for 10 seconds, and it heals them for 6% weapon damage every second. Second upgrade here, which is Shared Protection, and that is if you successfully heal an ally with Orb of Protection, you also gain Fortify Recovery, which is really, really good. And then finally, Aegis, which is when the projectile hits, it affects multiple allies within a 3-meter radius. This is really, really good. Again, another stack of Fortify, so that's 1, 2, 3 stacks altogether, which is perfect. And then finally, I take Beacon. First upgrade here, which is area of effect is 50% larger. Second upgrade, which is 5% lasting longer. And third upgrade, which is speed of light. So it heals the target and also applies a 20% haste to them. This is really, really useful in all situations. And of course, then I take the final passive down here, which is Glowing Focus, which is life staff buffs you grant last 20% longer. So more haste, more fortify, more healing. Really, really good across the board, and is perfect for this Paladin build, for the Illusionist build. Fortify yourself, attack players, heal your allies, heal yourself, attack again, get in and out really, really quickly, combining with the Rapier abilities, and this is a really, really good build. Finally then, just touching on a few consumables and gems. Gems for the life staff, I do go with the Diamond Gem Rally, plus 15% damage and outgoing healing while at full health. You can either go for the same in the Rapier, or as you can see I've done here, go for the Emerald, which is the Opportunist Gem, and this gives plus 20% damage against targets with less than 30% health, so you can finish kills a lot easier. This can be really, really good in wars, so that when people do get low, you can go in, help clear out the point for your team, and then go back to healing, whatever you want to do. Depends on your playstyle, but I like both of these ones. In terms of the armor then, I've gone for 3 Onyx Gems. That gives me a little bit more physical resistances. I've then gone for a Diamond Gem, which is a little bit of physical and elemental. And finally, a Gambit, which gives me elemental. So generally just spreading out across the board, general defense defenses, general stat boosts, general resistances, which is kind of what I've gone for here. But you can go for whichever ones you want out of the three. I would say those are your most beneficial. And then finally, consumables. Obviously, your infused health potions. Obviously, you want your regen potions as well. I do really like to take the mana potions in when I'm healing because, especially in wars at the moment, there's a lot of damage going down, a lot of CC, a lot of rend, a lot of disease. All of those type of new things that have come into the game with the latest patch. So I like to take mana potions in so I can spam the heals as much as possible. Obviously, you want to take in your oak flesh balms into any PvP, incense, strong gemstone dust for those kind of resistances. Again, your honing stones are going to be super useful. And if you are going to do PvE content, you're going to want corrupted coatings or angry earth coatings. Both of those do really, really well on top of your regular foods. As you can see here, your hearty meals. Like I said before, the stat boost food, my personal favourite one is the roasted rabbit and seasoned vegetables, which is plus 40 con. But you can also get an equivalent for plus 40 dex, plus 40 focus, depending on what you would rather have less of permanently and just boost for the wars. So for me, that is Constitution. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, found it useful and informative. Hopefully you can do a madness with this Illusionist build next time you're in a war or outpost rush or any PvP environment. It's a lot of fun and certainly gets the job done. Does compete with my War Paladin build for sure. This is potentially my favourite build in the game so far because of the ability to run around, engage enemies, disappear, come back in with the healing, fortify yourself, heal yourself for a lot, heal allies for a lot, and just be generally a very, very useful component to any war team, any PvP team, or even any PvE team. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please do be sure to leave a like on today's video down below, as it really does help support me and my content here on YouTube. If you are new to the channel, you want to see more New World content, then please do drop a subscribe down below as well, as I would much appreciate that. We are pushing for 12,500 subs by the end of the year, so if you could help me out there, that would be massively appreciated. For those of you that are celebrating Christmas, have a Merry Christmas and take care. And other than that, guys, I will catch you tomorrow for tomorrow's upload. As always, take care and peace.